Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Reservations. We're your hosts. I'm Raine Whalen.
And I'm Jeremy Blair.
And if you were listening to our last week's episode, you'll know that we have a very special guest, my mom.
Hello.
Nikki's on the podcast.
Nikki's on the podcast.
Yes, this is the first time we've had a guest that is not Alex.
That's true. It's hard to book guests when you don't have any friends.
Aw. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yes. Even though we love having Alex on, Alex, if you're watching, we love you, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow.
He doesn't listen.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
There's no way.
For sure.
No slumming allowed.
He just promotes it when he's on. And that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, welcome back, everyone. Again, my mom is on the podcast because she called me up. If you didn't hear this story last week, she called me up while I was in the full swing of attending the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. And she's like, I'm going to be in town on the 22nd. I'm going to be on the podcast. We're going to talk about Tombstone. And I told Jeremy, and he was just like, okay.
He's tired of waiting around to be invited, so by God.
Well, I'm trying to get you on. It's just hard.
Yeah, I mean, our people got to call their people.
That's right.
It's a whole the logistics, the bureaucracy. Forget about it.
The whole red tape. Got to go through the agent.
But yes, we are discussing the, Jeremy, what year is it?
1993.
Film Tombstone.
The quintessential Western. The best Western.
Would you say that it...
Not the hotel chain.
No, okay. Sorry, Best Western. Go to hell.
What about Best Western Plus?
I mean, we'll see.
Now, would you say, Mom, that this kind of revitalized the Western genre in the 90s?
Tombstone?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's true of it. But I do think that as far as pure entertainment factor, it was probably one of the best films to come out of that decade. And, its shelf life certainly hasn't suffered any from 1993 to now. So.
Yeah.
Unlike mine. So.
It's because you drink too much.
That's probably true. So, she's right. I think that the entertainment value is very strong with Tombstone. It didn't revitalize. That would have come the year before with Unforgiven. Unforgiven really put a new spark in what is now the modern Western. It's a grittier story. It's a more realistic place where, our heroes are not only flawed, but they're equally as dangerous, right?
Right.
And I think what Tombstone does is it builds on that, but also being a little more lighthearted and more fun to watch, rather than watching an old gunslinger
like high noon type situation.
Fight his demons, yeah. Even though I love Unforgiven.
Now, we kind of talked a little bit about it yesterday. Is it a little weird that 2 months later, a different movie company made Wyatt Earp, which is pretty much just...
Very ill-timed.
I wouldn't say
poor
it's
Kevin
strange.
Costner.
Maybe definitely poor Kevin Costner. That movie's terrible. But I wouldn't say it's strange. It's just competing studios. And, we've seen it with No Strings Attached versus Friends with Benefits.
And Friends with Benefits is the more superior movie.
That's a more recent example, but you get the idea that, it's not odd. I would say that it's crazy that they did it so close together.
Well, and
but what are you going to do?
I remember reading that they said with Wyatt Earp, they wanted it to be more focused on Wyatt, which I think, not that Tombstone isn't, I think, like you said last week, Val Kilmer steals every scene he's in.
It's Val Kilmer's movie. In my personal opinion. I think that if we want to use comedy jargon, Kurt Russell is the straight man, which means he's the boring one who sets everything up, right? And everyone else is more entertaining around him, right?
Okay.
He's keeping everything together, but that's not necessarily entertaining to watch, right?
So he's the glue.
Yeah.
Everyone else is the glitter?
Yeah, I would say. And no more so than Val Kilmer. Yeah.
Sam Elliott is glitter.
Sam Elliott is glitter.
I know, which is
title of the episode.
It's kind of funny that you're saying that Kurt Russell's the straight man when usually Sam Elliott would be the straight man.
He's more fun in this one. I think that, again, I think Kurt Russell is just a little more bland.
I think it's really interesting that you keep using the word fun. Because when I think about this film, for me, it's entertaining, but not because it's necessarily fun. Mm-hmm. Like in my mind, I don't consider it to be fun.
Okay.
When I hear the word fun, I'm thinking more like if you're going to think about, well, and that's a bad parallel. You can't say Blazing Saddles, because that is a fun, but it's not really a Western either. So you can't really count that in the genre of Westerns.
Understand.
But fun isn't a movie. I wouldn't describe Tombstone as fun, but definitely entertaining. For me, the movie is really historically accurate. There's only a couple of things that the writer kind of took license with, and he had every right to, I think, because it was very vague. We just don't really know what happened to Johnny Ringo and how he actually died. Lots of people say it was suicide. Wyatt Earp claimed to have killed him 4 times, out and about 4 times. And then even Doc Holliday said that he did it, but we really don't know what happened. So they took license with that. So for me, it's not fun. It's a vendetta movie. And I like it because it gives the whole picture of what happened with that family and the Cowboys and how justice ultimately prevailed, I guess. I don't know, but it's fun to watch. There you go, that word. It's fun to watch because, to your point, Kurt Russell does. He's stoic and he's grounded, and that mustache that he grew for the film.
Yeah, well, it's so rad.
Well, he's always on his mustache game.
He is, beard, mustache game.
Yeah, right.
He's been on point forever.
Yeah, he's Santa Claus for me now, forever.
Since after all those Disney movies, he was like, I think I'm going to start doing stuff with my facial.
Right.
And then, in The Hateful Eight, when he grows that giant mustache.
It's an over-exaggerated Wyatt Earp mustache. It's so rad.
Speaking of mustache, this is going to be weird, but
phenomenal.
Everyone in the movie has a great mustache.
Yeah.
Sam Elliott with the...
Sam Elliott takes the cake, obviously.
With what I call the curl over mustache, where you can't see his upper lip.
It's the best kind.
But it's perfectly
Well, and that's accurate. That's one of the things that I like about this movie so much, because it is as fun as it is, as silly as some of it can be. I mean, like the opening shot when we're coming into Tombstone, when the families are coming into Tombstone, and it pans across Boot Hill Cemetery, and you see, Lester, the tombstone that's, 4 slugs from a 44. There's no less, no more.
Yeah.
And apparently that was historically accurate.
It is.
Yes,
it
was.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you start to think, what kind of cheese is this? And then there's a couple of scenes where the acting is a little bit, cheeseball. Like Maggie's character, the woman that, Maggie, I just couldn't.
Or Maddie?
Maddie, that's it. Maddie, the opium.
Wyatt Earp's common law wife.
Yeah. And her opium addiction. But I couldn't. Laudanum.
You're right.
Well, but it was opium.
You're right. It's a little heavy-handed, I thought.
Yeah, and I couldn't get behind her. I just couldn't believe her scoffing at him in the street, after they spent their first, evening at the theater, and she's just scoffing. I'm like, all right, come on, drama queen, go on.
They're really leaning into the audience is not supposed to like her.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be okay that he's falling in love with this other woman. And,
yeah.
As we're
supposed to get behind that.
As we're in the Wyatt Earp movie, they make it seem like a bad thing that he's falling in love with Josephine.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I don't think I've sat through that entire movie.
I have unintentionally.
I think I've sat through maybe 4 hours of it, but it's 10 hours long. Right? So I haven't seen the whole thing. But I do like what you had said, that it is encompassing the entire story. So when we get to what would in another film be the finale, which is the OK Corral, it's a little over halfway through the movie. We still have a lot more to go.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people mention the OK Corral shootout, in lots of things, right? And when you think about it, it's a huge watershed moment in, these people's stories. Mm-hmm. But this movie treats it as a kicking off point.
Yeah, it's just a point in time that really leads us through. Because the Vendetta ride, for me, that's the film.
Yeah.
Is the Vendetta ride. And for me, that is where all of these iconic Western characters that are a part of our rich history, really come together. And for me, that's what makes Tombstone. And of course, Val Kilmer, because you can't, his Dog Holiday is, aren't you a daisy?
I read that it was his idea to give him more of a Southern gentleman accent.
Yeah, from Georgia.
And
wasn't Doc Holliday from Georgia? Jeremy,
Holiday
Mr. Fact Checker.
I read about that his accent was accurate. He was related to, in some way, the writer of Gone with the Wind. And so
wasn't the actress or wasn't
maybe
the...
it was. I don't remember. But
I read that too.
He's in that line to where that accent is accurate and would have been,
about the way
he's almost a dandy, the way he talks, sort of, where
he's an educated man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
No, I really hate him.
yeah. And the way he dresses, and he's not what you would think is a typical cowboy. But
Yeah.
But then he wrecks shop at the OK Corral.
He totally does.
He's the coolest one.
Yeah,
with the street houser. He wrecks shop with the street houser.
and he's smoking with tuberculosis after his doctor said you should probably stop smoking.
I liked it too much.
And he's like, nah.
And I want to know, where in the hell did Doc Holliday learn his gunslinging skills? Because he was a dentist.
Yeah.
For God's sake, when did he have time? I mean, was he just bored and out back shooting cans?
He's an adrenaline junkie, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
In the Wild West days, and so I'm sure that he's just like, man, this dentist stuff is fun, but
what if I picked up a gun?
Yeah,
right? Or a tin cup.
Exactly.
Oh, that's I love that because he upshows Johnny Ringo.
Oh yeah.
Humiliates
him without even taking his gun out of the holster.
And I just want to mention how many actors that they got for this movie.
Yeah, and which at the time maybe not as well known, but would eventually become very well known.
Sure. Like Thomas Hayden Church.
Lol. You guys like Wings? Shout out to Wings.
Yes, absolutely.
Stephen Lang, which it took me reading the cast list to realize that Ike was Stephen Lang. I was like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. That's the general from Avatar?
Oh. Yes. Most people might also know him from Lost.
Jeremy doesn't like Avatar.
No.
What?
Okay.
We don't have time.
That's a conversation for another time.
Definitely don't have time.
What was his character's name on Lost? What was it?
Wasn't he or maybe I'm getting it mixed up with, because one of the characters,
Let me get my handy dandy
I believe
notes.
he was the mayor, is a character on
Yeah,
Lost.
the mayor was the dude who played.
I've never watched Lost once in a
Oh
while.
my God,
Okay.
are you serious? Okay, that's a whole nother conversation for another time too.
But it's okay. I've seen the Watchmen show. So.
He has hair.
And let's talk about Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton,
who does not look like himself.
No, it does. It took.
Terry O'Quinn is who we're thinking of. Terry O'Quinn.
You're right. It does take a minute to recognize Billy Bob Thornton.
Because I saw that he was in the film, and I was like, oh, Billy Bob Thornton. And then when we get to the dealer scene, I'm like, that's not Billy Bob Thornton. What?
He's dealing the Pharaoh game at the Oriental.
Well, but for me, he wasn't skinny at the time.
Well, yeah.
I associate
Well,
Billy
you remember
Bob.
Sling Blade? I mean, he was.
I've never seen Sling Blade.
We don't have time. So,
so many bad things tonight.
It's fine. So, but you're right. It does sort of take you a minute, or at least for us, to realize it's Billy Bob Thornton. We're so used to him being, very skinny, and but I caught him by his accent. So.
Yeah. Once I really started focusing on the voice, I was like, that's Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
And Kurt Russell humiliates him in front of everyone.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had it coming.
He did have it coming.
Absolutely.
That guy was a dick.
Now, for me, I think the most surprising cameo, if you will, besides Robert Mitchum, which we'll get to Robert Mitchum.
Yes, we absolutely must circle back.
Is Billy Zane. When Billy Zane gets out of the gets out of the carriage, I laughed out loud. I completely forgot he was in the movie, and I immediately wrote it in my notes.
Yeah, poor Billy Zane. He's got that.
In general, I get it.
He's got that. That one line in Back to the Future.
He is, by the way, shout out to our Back to the Future episode. Also, we talk about Billy Zane in that one. Because we have to. Anytime Billy Zane's in anything, we have to talk about Billy Zane.
Yeah. If we ever do a Zoolander episode, we have to dedicate at least 45 minutes just talk about Billy Zane.
Would you consider this Billy Zane's best
Billy
movie?
Zaner?
Oh, come on.
Not Titanic?
No.
Best film ever. Billy Zane.
I mean, definitely probably the best campy performance.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the whole 3 scenes that he was in.
Yeah. And then one of them he's dead in.
I would say that he steals those 3 scenes. I would say Billy Zane is great, and he's got some killer locks.
I mean...
R.I.P. to his hair.
That's right. Because he's bald now.
He does not have that hair.
No, he does not.
I mean, he stays straight when the Cowboys are shooting at him, and he's still delivering.
Yeah, he just kind of he shakes it off like Swifty.
He does his time, like a true professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not like that juggler piece of shit.
They're shooting at us.
I guess I'm done.
They're shooting at us.
Yeah.
The juggling's over. Yeah, dude. I was like, and I feel like when I read the cast list, I didn't see his name anywhere. I might have overlooked it.
See, I just popped it in because I remember seeing the movie. I guess it's been so long that I don't remember anything about it. And so...
and aren't you glad you rewatched it?
I am, because, again, it ignited my love of Bill Paxton again, Powers Booth, great collaboration in Frailty, which is definitely a future episode. It's great to see these guys again because we can no longer see them in anything else ever again. So
yeah, we were talking about that. I was like, I didn't know Powers Booth died.
2017.
And she was like, no, he's dead now. I'm like,
same year as Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
They both died in 2017.
And she disagrees with me when I said the late great Bill Paxton, because he gave us the best line in Aliens. We'll give another shout out if anyone can guess what that line is.
Have fun not typing in comments, you jacks. So, but yeah, so I mean, the cast is unbelievable, just sprinkled with everyone, and then we also get Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Which is a huge deal.
Well, and see, I was trying to figure out who Wyatt Earp III was in the movie, because I read that he was. I was like, that's cool. I wonder if it was weird seeing Kurt Russell as his great grandfather, but I didn't know what he looked like. So
yeah,
wasn't he one of the hands on Charlton Heston's?
I believe so.
One of the guys standing there on the porch with.
Yeah, so I overlooked him then.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you know who you're looking for.
Exactly.
That's right.
So, but all right, let's talk a little bit about Robert Mitchum. A lot about Robert Mitchum.
Let's talk about Robert Mitchum.
Robert Mitchum, very, very old at this time. He wouldn't yet do his last performance. I think that's in Dead Man, another Western. More of an acid Western.
Jarmusch?
Yeah, with Jim Jarmusch.
It's on the Criterion wish list.
It sure is. And I just think it's a great little nugget for Western fans who grew up watching all of the old Westerns, and now that this genre has been sort of revamped for this new generation, we have people who watch the old ones kind of recognize the voice and go, that's Robert Mitchum. That's crazy. I grew up watching his Westerns, right?
Sure. And I think, and Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but was he in Gunsmoke? It seems like there was a TV. Let me just look real quick, because
Gunsmoke. Shout out to Lavender, who's the dog on Raine's lap right now.
Well, see, I just thought it was great that he was actually meant to be in the movie. I think he was meant to be.
Wasn't he meant to play like the sheriff or
something, and then he got hurt, but they still wanted him involved in the movie, so they're like, how about you just provide narration for the beginning and the end?
Which helps. I think it helps. The narration in the beginning. Also, in the montage in the beginning, we get shots of the first Western film ever, The Great Train Robbery, 1904. And we had mentioned that in our Goodfellas episode.
Is this that movie?
Yes, so that's The Great Train. They even showed the clip of the actor shooting the gun at the camera. And so paying homage to where we have come from and where we are now in 1993.
Well, and I was totally wrong. He wasn't. He did Robert Mitchum did the majority of all of his work was in film.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, well, he did some things in the 50s, but not Gunsmoker, those other shows that I can remember my own grandfather, enjoying and watching. So.
Who else was it that was meant to be in the movie but then got hurt? And then couldn't... But this person couldn't be in the movie at all after they got hurt.
I see.
And they had to recast.
I don't think I read that.
I think it was for the Marshal.
Okay.
I think they had someone else in mind, and then he got hurt and couldn't do the movie at all.
I know originally Willem Dafoe was supposed to be Doc Holliday.
Really? I couldn't. Oh my God, that would not have sold with me at all.
You know what's so crazy? Shout out to our Martin Scorsese series. Because of The Last Temptation of Christ is why Willem Dafoe did not get the role.
That's interesting. Did it say why?
It just said because of the controversial role he had in The Last Temptation of Christ.
That's interesting.
Which, maybe...
It was pretty far removed at that time. I mean, it's not like the next year. It had been 5 or 6 years since that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
And I want to ask you, and we'll do it off mic, of why that movie is so controversial.
Okay.
But, so can we talk for like 8 hours about Val Kilmer?
Sure.
Yes, let's.
Val Kilmer...
I mean, this
is his best performance.
I mean, he's at the height of his powers right now. Because he's got Top Gun under his belt.
Heat.
He's about to get Batman Forever.
Yeah.
But he's killing it right now.
Maybe The Saint had already come out.
Who knows?
Who knows? My man's on fire. Right?
Yeah.
And
He was 93. He was young. He was beautiful. He still he looked like the Iceman still, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
yeah, I mean,
he had that dope mustache and the soul patch.
And again, his commitment to the role really does
Show through.
Yeah, I mean, his work with his quick draw, right? His accent, his commitment to being covered in sweat.
And makeup
the entire
constantly.
Movie.
Yeah, and I just want to say, shout out to whoever did the makeup for him. That they made him look so sickly.
And it's not over the top. It's just enough to where it's like,
believable.
That guy's dying.
Yeah. He is not going to make it to the end of the movie.
Pale and pasty and
sweaty. And he
sweaty.
makes it to the end of the movie.
Yes, he does. I mean, relatively.
Except for the last, 10 minutes.
And I think what's so great about his character, the real person, Doc Holliday, is that he was so well known and so well documented that they had a lot to go on.
Mm-hmm.
All of his little quips, I'll be your huckleberry, you're a daisy if you do. All of these things have been documented as that is something he said.
I think
Docism.
Yeah, I think the only thing I read that Val Kilmer improvised is when he winks at Billy.
Thomas Hayden Church. Yeah.
Yeah, right
in
before
the corral. Yeah.
Right before the shootout happens.
Yeah.
But I think everything else was, as we've been saying, historically accurate that Val Kilmer did.
Yeah, I mean,
except for his final shootout with Johnny Ringo, since we don't know.
Yeah, since we don't know how Johnny Ringo died, but still, I'm glad that that the writer took license with that particular scene, because there could have been no other way in my mind.
Well, and it's kind of like when we talked about with The Irishman.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how Jimmy Hoffa died,
right?
But this is a very plausible way it could have happened.
Agreed.
Because the actual historical documents is that he had a bullet wound in his right temple. He had discharged his weapon once, and he was just laying underneath the tree, which is what we see in the film. But we see Doc Holliday just get him.
I think now, since we've come pretty far in terms of filmmaking to where I think if we were to do this again, I think a filmmaker would have filmed multiple scenarios.
And then decided...
Yeah, or maybe and said, no one really knows what happened to Johnny Ringo. Some say Doc Holliday shot him, and then they would film that, and then they would say some say that Wyatt Earp did it, and then have all of these, which would have been cool to see. But again, this is not the style of film this is.
You mean a 1985 Clue ending where we got 8 different endings?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Which was so appropriate for that movie, by the way.
It's like
for Clue.
I mean, they had to. I
guess what I'm saying is Tombstone should have been more like Clue.
Which was also a wonderful film in its
own
own
right. Is that what we're saying? That's what
I mean, what you're saying is Tim Curry should have showed up at some point.
God. Tim Curry is Wyatt Earp.
In Tombstone?
Yeah, I'd see that.
He should have been an Undertaker. That would have been fantastic.
That would have been great.
Yeah, and his high heels and fishnets.
Yeah.
His fro.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. It could be a musical. We could just take this a whole different direction.
Exactly. I also really liked that in talking about, taking a little bit of licensing, they take Doc Holliday's final words and they sort of put context to it where no one really has a full 100% what he meant by that. They, in the film...
when he says, I'll be damned.
Yeah, because he's not wearing his boots, right? And he had always said he was going to die with his boots on.
That's right.
Oh.
So you remember that very final... He asks Wyatt to leave. If you ever had any care for me at all...
Leave.
You'll leave. And then he says, please. Wyatt stands up and looks down at him and says, thanks for always being there, Doc. And walks out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then Doc...
He sees the
lifts
pamphlet.
up the book and sees that it says, My Friend Doc Holliday by Wyatt Earp. And, and then he looks down at his feet.
And he kind of does that with his feet.
I'll be damned.
And
that is funny.
Yeah.
And then he just...
And then he takes his last breath.
Right. Some say that that's really not what he meant by that, but who knows? I like this one.
Yeah.
I like that he's not wearing his boots.
And apparently my hypocrisy
knows no bounds.
Well, but he said knows no bounds, but then at the
with Johnny Ringo.
Yeah.
My hypocrisy knows no bounds. But then
but didn't he repeat that line again? Apparently my hypocrisy does
something
to that effect.
Yeah.
When he's laying in the hospital, the sanatorium bed.
Yeah,
and he actually died in a hotel, not a sanatorium, so.
Yeah, when Wyatt's trying to play poker with him one last time, and Wyatt almost won't let him die yet.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
I know.
He had tuberculosis real bad.
Yeah.
Clearly not bad enough to kill Johnny Ringo.
No, not bad enough to do anything. And he mentions that he's not as sick as he leads on, right? Which is, I know that we'll get to this eventually this season, but in The Prestige, that's the old Chinaman's trick. Is he pretends to be so decrepit and not strong, so that's why he can do he can fool people, right? And so I think that's a little bit of Doc Holliday's shtick as well. Is he maybe plays on the sickness a little bit so people underestimate him.
Sure.
Smart.
That makes perfect sense, especially because of his prowess around the gambling table, poker, and how he felt about poker. In the movie, he plays a 36-hour game of poker, and in real life, he and about 7 other players, including Wyatt Earp, played a year-long, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week poker game in the basement of the theater. What was the name of the theater?
I don't remember.
I think it was the Birdcage Theater.
The Birdcage Theater, that's right. Yeah. And they had a basement poker game going on. And so he played for like a year.
Well, see, and
8 years. No, it was 8 years. 8-year poker game.
It's a while.
Well, I mean, they would rotate players in and out, but Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp were a part of that game for 8 years. $10 million passed through the basement of that little theater in the late 1800s.
Good Lord.
Isn't that crazy? And he was part of that.
And I like how the filmmakers very early on show us that Doc knows how to work a table.
Yeah.
And I like how he's talking to the guy who's threatening him, like, well, I thought we were friends. And then he puts his guns down. He's like, see, now we can be friends again. And then he just stabs him.
I was hoping that guy would have aces and eights, but I wasn't that lucky. So
that's the name of the barber shop I go to.
It's the
Dead Man's Hand.
The Dead Man's Hand. That's right. It's
aces and eights.
Wild Bill Hickok's.
Yeah.
Anyway, go watch Deadwood. Everybody, go watch Deadwood. After you're done listening to us.
And after you watch Tombstone.
Should they watch the movie of Deadwood as well?
I mean, if you liked the 3 seasons, yeah, go for it. If you didn't, why torture yourself,
I mean, you clearly like torturing yourself.
That's not true. I love all the films I watch, with the exception of maybe next week. But that's fine.
All the dark and twisty ones.
That's right.
All the dark and twisty ones.
I think those are fun, Mickey, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so Raine.
So Jeremy.
Let's pretend, since it was so long for both of us, it seems, watching this for the first time, let's just pretend this is our first time watching it, because it might as well have been. What
Especially if they're your age.
They are.
I mean,
This
think
film
about
is-
it.
Yeah. So what was the question?
Sorry.
First impressions. Movie's over, boom, what'd you think?
I mean, I thought it was great because
Were you watching it with her? Because
No.
she might
No.
have influenced you, but okay.
No.
No, I watched it by myself. I watched it Thursday night because I knew I wasn't going to get to watch it last night. And then, we were doing that today, so...
Right.
So, I enjoyed it because I've actually seen Wyatt Earp. Like I said, I'd seen it unintentionally. Ashley and I were at her grandparents' house, and it was just on the channel that her Meemaw had it on.
It was on cable.
Wait, it was on cable?
Yeah.
That's an all-day thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like when they show The Godfathers in chronological order, except it's one stupid movie, and it's Wyatt Earp. Anyway, go on.
Over and over.
And the whole time I was watching Wyatt Earp, I was like, this feels wrong. And I don't know why. And now finishing Tombstone, I'm like, yeah, this is wrong.
That's because Kevin Costner dances with wolves, damn it, and always will be.
Oh, he's Field of Dreams is what he is.
Oh, man.
But then
He's the mailman, but let's not.
Yeah.
But then you have Dennis Quaid as Doc Holliday.
Yeah, no.
And you're trying to copy Val Kilmer? Like, no.
You can't. Not after someone makes a character so iconic so quickly.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and
you snooze, you lose. Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, and you want to know something really funny?
I do.
I'm about 90% certain both movie companies that produced Tombstone and Wyatt Earp are both now defunct.
Hollywood Pictures is defunct?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I know for certain that one is.
Yeah.
I think that one was defunct in like 99.
Really?
This one's Touchstone.
Touchstones?
Touchstone might not be.
Touchstone did Wyatt Earp?
No, Touchstone did Tombstone.
No, they didn't. It was
No,
Hollywood
Pictures did Tombstone.
Oh. I think my Blu-ray said Touchstone. So
Well,
they might have picked up the rights.
Well, it's because Disney owned Hollywood Pictures. So when
Buena Vista distributed Tombstone.
when I guess when Disney defuncted it.
Is that a word? Defunct.
Sure.
When they ended Hollywood Pictures, they probably just moved a lot.
When
of
they
that.
went under.
Yeah.
When Hollywood Pictures went
And
under.
then they probably just put everything on Touchstone because
Right on.
Touchstone. I don't think I don't think Touchstone has made any movies since the early 2000s, but I don't think it's defunct yet. Yet being the operative word.
Wow. Watch out, Touchstone.
Well, I mean,
Raine's coming for you.
somehow TriStar's still making movies. How does that make any sense?
So was Orion. I watched a movie the other
Because
day. with
Orion came back.
Yeah.
They came back.
Which is nuts.
I know somehow they got the funding to come back and
Is
do
this fun to listen to?
and do
I was
Bill
like,
and
wait.
Ted 3.
When did we go off on
Yeah.
the movie studios?
Anyway.
Let's talk about
Anyway, I just thought
Tombstone.
that was kind of funny that but one movie kind of deserving that their production company folded
because it
Wyatt Earp.
sucked.
And then Tombstone is still kicking.
Now, did your...
Long story short, I enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun. I love seeing Kurt Russell. I love Val Kilmer dearly, and I hate everything that he's had to go through in recent years.
It's... Yeah. This was an unfortunate film, but The Snowman, which had a lot of promise, and
Oh yeah, and our boy Martin Scorsese.
there's a ton of reasons why. But Val
Executive.
Kilmer's performance had to be dubbed over because he can't speak. If those of you who
that's
don't know,
right,
he
that's
had
right.
throat cancer, and he has a large part of his throat removed. So.
Yeah, and he lost a lot of weight because of his cancer. So he
He
just
looks odd now.
He just looks poor guy just looks rough.
Heard he's still going to be Iceman, though. And
yeah.
Well, and he's been actually retraining. He's actually been going to vocal training to retrain to learn how to use his voice again.
That's great. I love Val Kilmer.
So let's hope he comes back.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is 100% a future episode.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You like that movie.
I love that movie. Anyway, long story short, I love the movie. I love the cast. And it was very... What was kind of funny is I love Sam Elliott as Virgil, but the whole time I was watching it, I was like, that's the stranger from The Big Lebowski.
I was just about to say, I wonder if Raine's going to bring up The Big Lebowski, because my man Sam Elliott's in that.
I swear to God, I think Joel and Ethan Coen just said, hey, play Virgil. And he was like, okay, I can do that.
I think, you could argue that he's even doing that now on Family Guy, because he is... He's the new mayor on Family Guy, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, no one can ever replace Adam West, but...
Well, they did, and it's Sam Elliott.
Cleveland's gone now,
and Sam Elliott is amazing, obviously, in this role. I think, it's sort of...
He's the conscience of the three of the boys, I think.
I agree. And I would also say that, in terms of performances, it's hard to... for me anyway, to say, wow, Sam Elliott crushed it, because I just think that's who he is.
Oh, absolutely.
And so...
You think he just showed up to set one day wearing that, and they're like, oh, great.
And
I've seen him in a couple of other things where he's not quite like this. Have you ever... Very seldom.
I know you're probably going to make fun of me, but have you watched The Ranch on Netflix?
No.
I mean, he's like this in The Ranch. The difference is The Ranch is, modern day.
Yeah.
So, but he's this in The Ranch.
Yeah, I mean, he is this sort of stoic, moral,
I would
super
say,
handsome dude.
I would say the only
great hair.
only performance I've seen him do that's not this is A Star Is Born.
Okay. The Hero is also a really good one, if you guys know.
He plays the older brother, opposite of Bradley Cooper, trying to keep his little brother trying to keep his little brother's life together.
The conscience.
Well, yeah, but not so stoic, and not so
serious.
I don't know. A Star Is Born is very hard for me. I've only seen it once, and yet I own the movie.
With Sam Elliott,
he's just the best.
He does play a bad guy without a mustache, by the way, in Justified, which I love. Now, speaking of Justified, one of my favorite shows. Go watch Justified after you're done with Tombstone and after you're done with Deadwood.
Yeah, Deadwood.
Really get your Timothy Olyphant fix.
If you didn't already from the season 1 premiere.
Thank me later. All right, Timothy Olyphant, be my friend. So.
Man, and sidebar, we're gonna have to do a future episode on Rango and Timothy Olyphant pretty much playing Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's the best, man. Timothy is the best. But anyway, so if you watch Justified, it's a show about U.S. Marshals, and during their research, the actors into trying to get their characters right and make sure it's as authentic as possible, every single Marshals office they went to had either a poster of The Fugitive or Tombstone.
Are you serious?
Or both.
That's fantastic.
This is
I love that
a
tidbit.
U.S. Marshal movie.
Yeah, especially when we get that reveal when Kurt Russell cuts Ike's face with his spur.
Yeah,
and he
I
shows
love
that
scene.
badge.
And he pulls that jacket open real slow and shows him that badge, that federal badge.
And,
yeah, I love that.
And I think why U.S. Marshals love this movie so much is this is best case scenario being a U.S. Marshal, right? There isn't any paperwork, any due process. It's like, there he is, shoot on sight, we're done, right?
Yeah. Except for Stephen Lang's character, Ike, who punks out at the last second. Is like, I'm not part of them anymore. And they're like, okay. But then he dies
Why?
like three years later or something.
2 or 3 years later. In a robbery.
In a botched robbery.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about Michael Rooker yet, but that's...
Dude, as soon as I saw him, I was like, it's Michael Rooker with hair.
Yeah, I was like, it's Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Shout out to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Or Slither.
Phenomenal horror film. But yeah, I think that And also in Justified, in their marshal's office, there's a poster of Tombstone.
That's awesome.
Well, they have to keep it accurate, right? That being said, is that, this is a story that is not only very well known, but idolized by law enforcement, right? Especially U.S. Marshals, as this is, sort of the birth of modern marshalism. That's not a word.
Marshalism.
Yeah.
Federal law enforcement.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a word.
Well, I mean, they do say,
we don't have to make them up, I guess.
in the opening narration that, the Cowboys were the earliest form of organized crime.
Yeah.
So it would make sense.
So why not? Yeah, sure.
It makes sense that the lawmen would become, this is the earliest form of...
It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, and the beginning of the movie, that's when I just started writing people's names down as notes, which isn't really note-taking. I just wrote Powers Booth, really big. And lots of exclamation points, because I love Powers Booth.
I love him in this role too.
I can't tell you how many times I've said.
only funnin'.
I can't tell you how many times I've said, "Well, bye."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and his dry delivery, and he is.
I want you to know it's over. Well,
bye.
He's so mean. I love it.
Well, and he's just, that's it. He's sadistic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, how they introduce us to the audience to him is they shoot out a wedding for a Mexican police officer.
When my man shoots that priest, you're like, these guys are serious, but he's worse.
Johnny Ringo.
Yeah, when Ringo shoots the priest, it's like he's the worst one.
He was in an episode of The Mandalorian.
He was?
Yeah, Johnny Ringo. He was in the episode with Ahsoka. He was like the chick's right hand man that
that's right.
Mando shoots.
That's right.
Which a lot of people felt like they wish he would have had more screen time, but
you guys get off topic a lot.
I do.
I think
as a former educator, I'm like, get back on topic.
And people hate it, but do I care what other people think?
We'll see. We'll see how many, if people comment.
Yeah.
I would say if I were to have one issue with this movie, I could have done without the romantic side story with him.
Josephine?
Yeah, I could have done without that, but that's,
Tell me why. Tell me your reasons behind it.
I think it's sort of, for me, it slowed the movie down. And Kurt Russell isn't my favorite part of the movie. And so it's taking me away from Doc Holliday, I think. And
that's the ultimate thing for you. It's just taking you away from your favorite character.
Yeah.
From your steam sealer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think he's just the coolest, and I don't know. To me, it does. It matters to his character. It matters to
his arc,
his life in general, right?
Yeah, because he stays with Josephine until he dies.
47 years. Yeah, 47 years. I
liked that he said, "I'm gonna love you till the day you die," which is like you're definitely dying before me. So
yeah.
Like, listen, I'm gonna outlive you.
Let's be honest. He is immortal.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, we don't really know anything about Josephine Marcus. That wasn't even her real last name. And I don't even know that she was a stage performer. All the research that I did showed that she was a prostitute. So, hey. Oh.
Well,
hey.
I think in Wyatt Earp, the movie, I think that's how they portray her, as a prostitute.
Yeah.
Not a stage performer. So maybe that's the only thing they got right.
Yeah, maybe. That's really interesting. To me, she was just not such a non-essential character in the movie. I didn't really pay attention to her all that much.
Yeah. The only research that I found about her that was true is that she was a common law wife to the sheriff before she was common law wife to Wyatt Earp. Yeah, Behan, who
was in bed with the Cowboys.
Yeah, who didn't really care.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't die in the movie.
Well, and the funny thing about Behan is, not to talk about, I mean, I don't know how he ultimately met his fate in IRL, but the fact that he was even in bed with the Cowboys in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then how stupid is this man that he sits there with Josephine and tells her that basically the Cowboys are going to assassinate these Earp boys, and there's only going to be one man in charge of Tombstone, and you'd be well to know him. And she immediately goes over.
She snitches.
And she snitches. Yes. You know, well, I mean, come on, idiot. How dumb do you have to be?
Yeah. And technically both people were wrong. He was wrong to tell her. She was wrong to snitch. If I'm being honest.
Because stitches get snitches. Snitches get stitches?
Yeah. I mean, are you a ride or die or not? Apparently not.
Oh, my God, Jeremy.
Well, I mean... and
this could have played out a whole lot differently had she not snitched, though.
That's true.
Well, you know, and then, and Wyatt immediately in the film just does not like him. You know, so after the shootout, he's like, I'm going to have to arrest you. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to let you arrest us today.
In real life, he actually did arrest him. Or he put warrants out for them.
That's interesting.
They were never carried through.
Well, I was about to say until they became...
That might be why they didn't put it in the movie. Didn't matter, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was superfluous.
It's better if Wyatt says just a badass line like that.
Yeah.
Then flicks a lit cigarette at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
definitely plays better. Today. I would rather watch that than know the real...
Then he ollies off on his skateboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Grinds down the wooden sidewalk.
By the way, a skateboard invented in 1955 by Marty McFly. I tell people that all the time.
Shout out to part 1 of our Back to the Future episode.
Again, it's Billy Zane and
Marty inventing skateboarding.
And skateboards. That's really all we talk about anyway. So we kind of just wrapped it up anyway. So,
but they still got to listen to part 2, though.
That's true. So, all right. In terms of Westerns, Mickey, this is your favorite, obviously. Would it be clear to say? Okay.
It definitely is. Well, and I enjoy it. One of the reasons why I like it so much is it was released on Christmas in 1993.
So
He was just a few months old. He was 10 months old, just a little over 10 months old when the movie was released. And so for me, it's a Christmas movie. And
tried convincing that to my wife.
Yeah, it's totally a Christmas movie. And in fact, when Scott was home for the holidays, when he got a break from filming the movie that he's on now, that I will not mention.
Major Motion Picture.
He said, let's watch it. And oh man, and I never get tired of it.
That's why you never because he's like, let's watch Tombstone on Christmas, and you're like, fine.
Oh well, I never get tired of that movie. It's good from start to finish. It's like a cup of Sanka.
And now, Raine, you've seen now a few Westerns that I know of. I don't know how well versed you are in Westerns. I don't really remember talking about that too much.
Okay, so
that's not the most popular genre in the 21st century.
It is not.
Thanks to the podcast, I've seen the Man with No Name trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, yes, I know when we kind of talked about it in the Quentin Tarantino episode, not really Western per se, but Django and the Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
True Grit, the Joel and Ethan Coen True Grit. I have not seen the John Wayne True Grit.
What a big gamble, and it paid off.
Yeah, for real.
The Jeff Bridges True Grit?
Yeah,
yes.
that ended up working really well.
Oh my God.
In all honesty, it shouldn't have, but
it was. I mean, that'd be another.
Wasn't their version of the film more along the lines of the book, not strictly doing a remake?
Well, I don't even think it had anything to do with its,
source material.
We're talking John Wayne here.
Yeah, they were going up against John Wayne, and one of his,
most iconic roles.
Which is crazy that it was so, far into his career, during the last few years, but, taking that on and having someone else play that character.
Yeah, you don't mess with Rooster Cogburn.
No,
man.
I think the only thing that really, when the movie was coming out, I was like, ugh, at least it's not going to be Glenn Campbell. At least it's going to be someone else. So,
like a rhinestone cowboy.
Right. So
I've seen some Westerns.
Yeah. So where would you rank this one?
Okay. Definitely not higher than the Man with No Name trilogy.
This might be controversial. Here we go. All right.
Definitely not higher than that, because I think the Man with No Name trilogy, especially The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, is a phenomenal piece of not just Western, but just cinema.
Yeah.
I would rank it over Joel and Ethan Coen's True Grit.
Okay.
And I would rank it over Django and maybe not the Hateful Eight.
Okay.
So I would say
you have to weigh content. I think it's hard to take a movie like Tombstone and pit it up against, like really polished and refined Western films. This movie had a budget of $37 million, and that's it. And you guys know, just because of what my husband does for a living, $37 million to make a Western period piece is pennies. It's pennies. $37 million. And then when they opened that film, by the time it left the box office, they had doubled their money. Then on the other hand, that shitty movie, Wyatt Earp, sorry, Kevin Costner, had a budget of $67 million and only made $35 million.
Because do you think when they saw the success of Tombstone, they're like, oh, well, we have to double the budget?
There is a very strong possibility it was a coincidence. It takes a long time to make a movie.
It does.
So they might have already been in production by the time.
Or even in post by that time. But the thing about it is, and this is what makes Tombstone so iconic as just an entertainment, for its entertainment value, is that movie, when folks came out to see it, because I don't know about your family, Jeremy, but there's been a long-standing tradition in my family, and Raine, you may remember this from when you were little. You know, we would go to Mama and Peepaw's house, open up our Christmas presents, and then that evening we all loaded up and went to the movies. You know, and so
I remember that.
Do you remember doing that?
Yeah.
Well, you go to see a movie like Tombstone on Christmas with all of your family in a packed movie theater, you know, pre-COVID days. And these characters, whether you enjoyed the film or not, those characters were cemented in your minds and your hearts. And then Wyatt Earp comes out, you know, just a couple of months later, and you go, and the chemistry's not the same, the storytelling's not the same, the cinematography is not the same, costumes aren't the same. It's night and day difference. And that's what I think I love about this film, or the newfound respect that I have for Tombstone, is just simply what Scott does for a living, and knowing that the costume department, the hair and makeup department, the props department, all of the stuff, like the attention to detail inside the Birdcage Theater to the real Birdcage Theater is fucking phenomenal.
You can cuss on this,
you know,
by the way.
well, I don't want to be offensive. Who knows who's going to be listening to this?
Yeah, it's only like 7 people.
It's only 29 people.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
It's only 15 people, and then some re-listeners.
Half of them are related to us.
Yeah, and half of them are family.
But so the point you're making is that the fact of their budget, they were able to pull it off.
Yes, and I think it's beautifully shot. You know,
Yeah.
There are those scenes of like the sunsets with the really wide, you know, they're almost reminiscent of like the Lawrence of Arabia wide shots.
Oh, I know. And when the federal posse is riding out and the sun is going down behind them and they're all shooting their shotguns into the air, I get cold chills every stinking time. You know, it's iconic cinematography. When you think Western, that's definitely a scene that I would want to see. In all the Westerns I watch.
Right.
You know.
There's got to be scenic shots.
Exactly.
And this wasn't even, you know, obviously it couldn't be in Monument Valley because it's a place, it's a real place. And, you know.
So I guess, I mean, to round back your question of where I would rank this.
Okay.
I guess I can't rank it then, but I mean, I have to find it. Have they done a 4K transfer of it yet?
I have the Blu-ray copy. That's about it. I don't know if they've done a
Garbage.
Oh, okay.
Garbage.
Oh my God. So.
Well, you could still be streaming shit like I am.
I just rented it on.
I don't trust it. I don't trust my Wi-Fi to hang in for that long. I have great Wi-Fi. Grinding Communications, you're doing great.
I'm gonna see this now and be like, take it away.
Slow down that bandwidth.
Yeah. Oh no, don't please. I think in terms of modern Westerns, I think it's, you know, one of the best, and definitely ones that holds up the most in terms of rewatchability.
Yeah.
I would say Unforgiven is my favorite. Out of, you know, a year apart, you know.
Yeah.
I like the downers more.
Like we've said, this is the
Dark
season
and
of
twisty.
downers.
Yeah.
Dark and twisty Jeremy.
Yeah, so with Unforgiven being the way it is, you know, I can't beat that. But and of course, in my mind, it's the man with no name, you know, in his elderly years. You know, you can't beat that. But in terms of this one, it's rad. You know, I mean, with just, let's take out the romantic stuff in it, which was boring. Because she was boring, quite frankly.
Except for Big Nose Kate.
Yes.
I like Big Nose Kate.
Yes, Big
the
Nose.
Antichrist.
I think that it's just super fun to watch. And again, getting to see Powers Booth, getting to see Bill Paxton. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I love, you know what I mean? Again, shout out to Frailty. It's a good one. So.
Yeah. It's great. I'm going to have to, I remember my cousins, this thing with my cousins, owning like a special edition of Tombstone that was on DVD. And
the
like
Buena Vista box set. They also did the
I think that
the Sixth
was it.
Sense and Unbreakable, and those are like really good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, too bad the quality is bad now because we have these sophisticated machines, but they're cool.
Yeah, these $200 4K players.
Yours was only $200. Okay,
No, it was $500. That PlayStation 5 though.
Yeah, shout out to PlayStation 5. Give him
Shout out to
stuff.
Sony.
Gotta have that PlayStation 5.
Give him free stuff, I guess. All right, Raine.
Jeremy,
Do you want to wrap up?
I'm ready to
You're
wrap
usually
up.
not this close.
We probably won't be this close.
Not again. Okay.
No.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yes, I am ready to wrap up.
Right
Mom,
on.
are you ready to wrap up?
Well, I want to say one more thing because we didn't really talk about like the writing.
All right. Oops, we forgot.
And I'm interested in like what you guys know about. You heard that Kurt Russell
Pretty much directed the movie.
Ghost directed?
Well, they
lot
had
of
directing
Tombstone.
problems.
Yes, the writer.
The writer was meant to
direct.
well, I think he started to, then he got fired, and then they brought in the guy who's credited. But what I read is Kurt pretty much directed the whole movie, and that guy
And
was
Val
just
Kilmer backs that up in many interviews.
and that guy just pretty much was there to just make sure
What
things.
was his last name? Jeff.
I don't know.
He
See?
directed Rambo. The writer also wrote Rambo, and he also
Like
wrote,
the original Rambo.
he also wrote Glory, which is
Oh yeah, the one with Matthew Broderick.
yes, the Matthew Broderick movie.
For sure.
Glory.
A future episode. I'd love to talk
Yeah.
about that movie.
So you can see where this writer is comfortable with big scope, big
Sweeping
idea.
scenes.
Right? And it shows in this, obviously. But I think Kurt Russell coming in and ghost directing, I think helps a lot, especially with his expertise in the industry and his,
Because he's the man.
he's Kurt Russell.
Well, I mean,
You know?
he's been. Well, you know that Walt Disney's dying words, his last words were Kurt Russell. I shit
Really?
you not.
Well, I mean, Kurt was.
What, did Kurt just walk in the room at that time?
No, he wrote it on a piece of paper,
That's insane.
passed it off to like the person who was caregiving, and then fucking took his last breath.
And
Kurt Russell.
That's all
Walt
he
Disney's
wrote?
last words. That's it. That's it. And then he kicked
Not the computer's wearing pants.
it. Nothing like that. Cryogenically freeze my body and
Yeah.
My head and put me under the Disney castle.
I can't believe it wasn't something anti-Semitic. That's so crazy.
See-
that it was Kurt
Or
Russell.
super like capitalist.
Yeah, or something, like for sure. I thought it
Like
was
big business.
something anti-Semitic. But that's
Yeah.
cool. It was Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Walt
And I'm
Disney's
sure
last
Kurt
words.
was like, Kurt Russell, what?
Unreal.
Am I running Disney now? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and he signed a 10-year contract with Disney. Kurt Russell
Really?
did, yeah. So he was Disney's bitch from the late '60s
He
to the
was.
late '70s,
My mom loves Kurt Russell, and especially
and
in
it's
those-
because of Disney.
Yeah, and it's because of those roles that he
Mm-hmm.
did when he was a kid.
And then Jeff Bridges came in and did Tron.
I was gonna say, and then John Carpenter was born, but
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
But Kurt Russell did some John Carpenter movies too. So
they're so
Well, yeah, his favorite movie is The Thing.
The Thing.
The
That's my
Thing.
favorite. I think it might be my favorite John Carpenter.
you don't like when Kurt Russell plays Snake Pilson.
I do like Snake Plissken, but I mean,
Snake
that's,
Plissken.
it's not as good as.
Yeah,
But
But you're right. The writing is incredible, and
it is. I mean, I feel like that's the reason why.
it takes a lot of. I mean, and like you said, I mean, the research that has to go into a movie like this is unreal. I mean, you can't imagine how much time it took.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And every single time
Yeah.
that Wyatt meets Stillwater and Ike at the train when he's put his family on the train for California, and they're looking for Wyatt to kill him, and he cuts Ike with his spur, and then sends him off running and tells him, I mean, the most iconic line ever. You tell him I'm coming. I'm coming and hell's coming with me.
Which mirrors the
beginning of the movie.
In the very beginning where they quote Revelations,
Yeah. The sick horse.
It's amazing that guy was that bad at interpreting Spanish, which is what seemed like his first language.
And Johnny Ringo makes a point to let him know.
Yeah.
Your Spanish is worse than your English.
Which is unreal.
Oh my God.
IRL, he was a Native American.
Oh, just like, okay, shout out to Lou Diamond Phillips in Stand and Deliver. That was also
Cruz was a Native American IRL.
Except for Young Guns. Oh, I forgot to mention, I've seen Young Guns.
Dude, and I think I just read somewhere that they're going to do another, like, Young Guns thing, like...
There's no way they can call
like
it Young
resuscitation.
Yeah, they did
you see this?
They did a Young Guns 2, which made no sense because Kiefer Sutherland's narration at the end of the first Young Guns
made it very clear that Billy was
Billy
dead.
the Kid died shortly after this.
I seriously, I read something that said Emilio Estevez and the boys are gonna maybe do another little Young Guns. Billy the Kid.
Emilio Estevez has not
Guns.
acted in almost 20 years.
He's too busy making those movies, bro.
Yeah, he's directing now, so...
He's so good.
I'm just saying, dude, I just saw a little blurb on it. Like,
shout out to The Way. It's also very good.
This is The Way?
No. My God. It stars his father, Martin Sheen, and directed by Emilio Estevez.
Estevez.
Emilio Estevez.
Well, y'all, thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, dude, absolutely, man. This was so much fun.
I really enjoyed it.
So, Jeremy, do you want to know what we're talking about next week?
I already know what we're talking about next week.
If anyone missed what we're talking about next week, because we pretty much laid it out last week, how these next 3 episodes are going to go, next week is my pick, and it is Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby.
Yes! That's my boy.
Well, since you clearly didn't hear what I said last week, I've been subtly kind of tricking him.
It would have never worked. I don't think
He's inceptioning you.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily.
Ha-ha! Inceptioning!
Not necessarily. So what I did is I carefully picked movies that have actors that are in The Great Gatsby because it started when he chose the film Warrior.
You totally inceptioned him, man. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, son.
He chose the film Warrior, and Joel Edgerton was amazing. And I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to get Jeremy to watch The Great Gatsby. Partly at the time...
All you would have to do...
I love that face.
Partly at the time, it was just because I wanted to piss him off.
Yeah, I can tell.
But the more I worked this plan out, the more I was like, no, I want his honest opinion. I want to have a genuine conversation about this movie. So what I did is that's when I picked What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Okay, yes.
To talk about Leo.
Yeah, I got to have Leo.
And then Pleasantville to talk about Toby. Mm-hmm. And then Pleasantville, the Great Gatsby. Because, as I mentioned last week, even though I enjoy this film, it does have its flaws. Baz Luhrmann has a very distinct artistic style that he used in the film, but
in Gatsby.
But he owns not anymore, as Alex told us. He used to own rights to the book.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say.
Of course, now the rights are open, and Alex said we should make our own Great Gatsby.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's now public domain right now.
Jeremy could be Gatsby.
Yeah, totes.
But, Baz uses a lot of visual clues from the book in the film, and that's something that I wanted to talk to you about.
And especially think about that when you guys are watching the masquerade scene. So think about that. At the very beginning.
I have a hard time with the word masquerade because I had it mansplained to me in
the Phantom of the Opera?
Are you triggered? Are you triggered?
Because when we did the Phantom of the Opera, I had...
Did you mansplain?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, movie, I know what a masquerade was. Like, you don't have to, Joel Schumacher, rest in peace, buddy.
Yes, R.I.P. to our one true fan.
So, alright, so it's gonna be...
So, Great Gatsby next week.
Listen, like I always do, even with your stupid Wes Anderson movies, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be as honest as I can.
Yeah, try not to be biased.
But I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna trash it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a trash podcast.
And I said... I feel like we could have a real good, genuine conversation about it.
It's so insane that this book is... The Great Gatsby.
Well, and the whole thing about it is that when it came out, nobody bought it. Everybody, like, it was critically panned.
And then
when
now
the book was first published.
It's widely regarded as one of the best written books.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Ever.
Dare say it'll be canon.
Yeah.
Unreal.
But to leave it on a high note, so next week The Great Gatsby, but then the week after that.
Yes, please continue if you're still listening to the book, and please see the movie.
I'm thinking of Ending Things
by Ian Reid
in 2 weeks.
Charlie Kaufman. So I've already started listening to the book again. So
I'm gonna need you to
it's only
hook me up.
It's about 5 hours long. It's not that long.
That's not too bad.
In terms of books, it's not that long, and you'll go right through it. It's super entertaining.
Yeah. So we hope everyone enjoyed Tombstone. Mom, thank you for being here and for recommending it.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
And we will see everyone next week for The Great Gatsby.